sound of a short, impactful audio clip from Jack Mallers' talk. Gold is stuck in your butt. Bitcoin is safe in your brain. Fades out. You just heard a snippet there that, well, it sounds pretty wild, right? But it actually opens up a really radical way of thinking about digital money. Welcome back to The Deep Dive, your shortcut to being truly well-informed. Today, we're embarking on a journey, really digging deep into the absolute foundation of Bitcoin. We're going to strip away the hype, the jargon, and reveal the ingenious design choices that make it so unique. Our mission today, to deeply understand what Bitcoin really is, especially its secret sauce, this concept called proof of work. Now, our source material for this deep dive comes from this, frankly, electrifying presentation by Jack Mallers. He's the CEO of Strike.
Yeah, the one from Bitcoin Atlantis 2024, Intro to Bitcoin.
That's the one. And he promises a really ambitious breakdown of Satoshi Nakamoto's profound innovation. So just forget the headlines for a minute, okay? Forget the price charts, the day-to-day noise. Mallers argues that Bitcoin, really at its core, is this groundbreaking solution, a solution to a problem humanity's faced for, like, millennia.
Which is?
How do we create reliable, scalable money without needing a trusted third party?
Yeah.
Without a bank or government in the middle. And he distills Bitcoin down into 4 fundamental connected elements: money, time, energy, and information. We're going to unpack each of these because, as Mallers puts it, if you fail to understand proof of work, well, you fail to understand Bitcoin itself.
And what's so fascinating right from the start is how Mallers doesn't begin with, like, the tech specs. He doesn't jump into code. He starts at the deep philosophical underpinnings of money, why money even exists. And that approach immediately brings up a crucial question for us to explore, and for you listening. Why did Satoshi Nakamoto, this, mysterious creator of Bitcoin, feel it was so absolutely vital to redefine what money is and how it functions in a digital world? It clearly wasn't just about making another digital token. It was about confronting these fundamental challenges, problems that every single previous attempt at digital cash had failed to solve.
Right. Because they all bumped up against the nature of information itself, basically.
Exactly. Information wants to be copied. Satoshi, it's clear, really went back to first principles. He dug deeper than anyone before him.
That's a really powerful starting point. And Mallers often says the hardest question isn't, how does Bitcoin work? It's simply, what is Bitcoin? And he leans on this philosopher Gigi's definition, right? This elegant formula.
Yeah, the money plus time plus energy plus information.
Exactly. Bitcoin is this synergy.
Yeah.
And he naturally starts with the first piece, money. So why start there? What's the foundational problem he's trying to get us to see?
Well, that's precisely it. He peels back the layers. He argues that before you can even begin to understand Bitcoin, you have to grasp the basic economic challenge that money itself solved thousands of years ago. And he does this brilliantly by taking us right back to the simplest form of exchange imaginable: barter.
Okay.
So imagine, if you will, a tiny village. Just 2 people, that's it. One grows apples, the other grow wheat. Super simple economy.
Right. Apple guy wants wheat, wheat guy wants apples.
Exactly. If their desires align perfectly, hey, I'll give you 10 apples for that bag of wheat. Sounds good? Then barter works fine. It's direct, it's simple, no problem.
But that's only if their wants match up, right?
Precisely. And here's where the inherent scaling problem of barter just immediately hits you. It totally stifles any chance of a complex economy. So what happens when the village grows? Even just a little bit. A cattle farmer moves in. Okay.
Right.
Then a really good bootmaker joins the community. Now we've got 4 people.
Okay, getting more complex.
Right. So our apple grower goes back to the wheat farmer. Hey, 10 apples for a bag of wheat. But this time, the wheat farmer says, nah, sorry, got plenty of apples. What I really need tonight is a steak.
Uh-oh. Apple grower doesn't have steak.
Nope. All she has are apples. So she's stuck. She then has to go to the cattle farmer. Hey, 10 apples for a steak? Cattle farmer says, appreciate it, but no thanks. Been working hard. My feet are killing me. What I really want is a new pair of boots.
Oh, man, this is getting complicated.
It is. So the apple grower, still trying to get that wheat, has to make another detour, completely unrelated. She finds the bootmaker. 10 apples for some boots. Maybe the bootmaker does want apples. So, okay, deal. The apple grower finally has boots.
But she doesn't want boots.
Exactly. Her goal was wheat. So now she takes the boots back to the cattle farmer, who happily trades them for a steak.
Okay, progress.
And then finally, she takes that steak to the wheat farmer and gets the bag of wheat she wanted all along.
Wow, that's incredibly inefficient.
It's unbelievably inefficient. That whole chain, apples for boots, boots for steak, steak for wheat. It perfectly highlights the core issue with barter. Economists call it the coincidence of wants.
Yeah.
You need to have what I want, and I need to want what you have at the same time.
Which rarely happens.
Almost never, once you get beyond a tiny group. And this isn't just like a minor inconvenience, it's a profound inefficiency. It cripples the division of labor, it stifles specialization, it makes it impossible to scale economies. I mean, seriously, could you imagine trying to run your life today in a world of 8 billion people just using barter? It's completely unworkable, a total dead end.
Okay, so humanity was basically trapped by this coincidence of wants. It sounds like it would completely prevent any kind of complex society or global trade.
Right.
So what was the escape hatch? How do we get out of that trap?
Exactly. The elegant solution, the thing humanity stumbled upon, really time and again across different cultures, is the concept of a medium of exchange, what we just call money. Money emerges as this special type of market good. You acquire it not to consume it directly. You don't eat your coins, right?
Hopefully not.
You acquire it solely for its future exchangeability. It's a tool. Think of it like a lubricant for the gears of commerce. So if our apple grower could just exchange her apples for some form of money, seashells, gold coins, whatever the village agrees on, she could then hold that money and then later confidently exchange that money for whatever she needs, like wheat, without that agonizing search for someone who happens to want her apples right now.
Ah, okay. It breaks that direct link.
It completely breaks it. Money solves the barter problem. It makes trade infinitely easier. It makes it incredibly more efficient. And crucially, it allows an economy to scale. From 2 people in a tiny village to billions across the globe. It totally dissolves that coincidence of wants. I mean, think about it. Could you walk into your local supermarket today and offer to, I don't know, paint their back wall tomorrow in exchange for a steak?
They'd probably call security.
Yeah, right. They'd politely decline. But you can work your job, get paid money, and then use that universally accepted money to buy the steak. And that enables specialization. People can focus on doing one thing really well, knowing they can trade their earnings for everything else they need. That's how we get complex economies.
So money is this vital lubricant. But what makes something good money? What qualities does it need? Mahler's listed several, right? Things that make it way better than, say, apples.
Exactly. For something to function well as money, it needs a specific set of characteristics. A robust, reliable money needs to be, first, durable. It's got to last. Can't have it rotting away like an apple. Gold lasts. Fresh produce, not so much.
Makes sense.
Second, fungible. This is key. Every unit has to be identical and interchangeable. $1 bill is the same as any other dollar bill. 1 ounce of pure gold is the same as another. Apples aren't fungible, right? One's green, one's red, one's bruised. They all have slightly different values. Money needs to be uniform.
Okay, got it.
Third, portable. Easy to carry around, easy to secure. Imagine lugging bags of apples everywhere, or even heavy gold bars for daily shopping. Not practical.
Definitely not.
Fourth, verifiable. You need to be able to easily confirm it's real, it's authentic, without needing, like, a science lab or trusting some expert. Counterfeiting should be hard and easy to spot.
Right, so you know you're not getting ripped off.
Exactly. Fifth, divisible. You need to be able to break it down into smaller units for making change. How do you give change for half an apple? Doesn't work.
Huh, yeah. 0.7 of an apple back.
Precisely. Sixth, and this is super critical, hard. It needs to be difficult to create more of it. This ensures scarcity. If anyone could just whip up more money easily, its value would plummet. It needs to be hard money.
Scarcity is key.
Absolutely. And finally, maybe most importantly, it needs to be a good store of value. The money should hold its purchasing power over time when you save it. You shouldn't save up and find it's worth way less later because of inflation or debasement.
So those are the ideal properties.
Yeah. And ultimately, if you boil it down, money is really just a form of information. It's like a shared public record of who owes what to whom in society. A kind of distributed ledger, in a sense, tracking value.
Okay, so historically, Mahler's points out, humanity has basically used 2 main types of money technology to try and achieve these properties. What are those and what are the trade-offs?
Right. We've consistently seen societies gravitate towards one of 2 broad approaches. First, you have lists, or ledgers. Think of these as records kept by some central authority. The U.S. dollar system is a perfect example. It's basically a giant digital ledger managed by the Federal Reserve and banks, keeping track of who has what balance.
Okay, like my bank account online.
Exactly. And the big pros of a ledger system are its incredible efficiency and scalability. It can handle billions of transactions for billions of people. It enables complex global finance. But the cons are equally huge. It fundamentally requires trust. You have to trust the central operator, the bank, the government.
And that trust can be broken.
It absolutely can. Centralized control makes it vulnerable. You've got the risk of double spending, though that's less common now. More importantly, the value can just be eroded over time through inflation, money printing. And maybe even more concerning, the ledger operator literally has the power to change history. They can reverse transactions, freeze accounts, censor payments, or even use insider info. You're subject to their rules and potential manipulation.
Doesn't sound ideal if you want true control.
Not at all. So the second category is physical tokens or items. Think gold, silver, seashells, salt blocks, tangible things used as money. The big pro here, they don't require trust to own or spend. If you physically hold the gold coin, you own it. Its value is inherent in the object. You don't need a bank's permission. It's a bearer asset.
Okay, that sounds more independent.
It is, but physical tokens have their own major drawbacks. They just don't scale well to billions of people. Imagine trying to settle international trade with shiploads of gold.
Impractical.
Very. They're also not very portable. You can't easily carry large amounts of value. You certainly can't beam gold across the internet or, as Mahler says, put it on your iPhone.
Right.
And often, they're not easily divisible for small, everyday purchases. Cutting tiny shavings off a gold coin isn't efficient.
Okay, so ledgers are efficient but require trust. Tokens are trustless but inefficient and don't scale digitally.
Exactly. And this contrast highlights a really key difference. Are we exchanging physical stuff or are we exchanging information? Mahler's uses this brilliant example. If I have an apple and you have an apple and we swap them, we each still just have one apple. Physical exchange.
Right.
But think about information. If I have an idea and you have an idea and we share them, we both now have two ideas.
Information is easily copied, non-rivalrous.
Precisely. It's effortlessly copyable. And that inherent quality of digital information is the absolute heart of the double spend problem for digital money. How do you stop someone from just copying and pasting their digital dollars, spending the same money twice, and inflating the whole system into worthlessness? That was the Achilles heel. Every digital cash attempt before Bitcoin failed because of this.
Okay, so this is where it gets really pivotal. Mahler's explains Satoshi Nakamoto's huge realization, the insight that finally broke this deadlock.
Yes. Satoshi, who had clearly studied all these past failures and understood the history of money deeply, grasped this fundamental dilemma. He wrote in his early posts and the white paper, with incredible clarity, something like, "No scarce commodity, like a physical token, can be traded over a communications channel, the internet, without a trusted third party."
You need an intermediary if you're trying to trade something physical online.
Right. He realized that in a purely digital world, a world of information, if you want internet money, true peer-to-peer digital cash, you must build a list, a ledger. You simply cannot put a physical token like gold directly onto the internet in a trustless way. You can't put it on your phone. You can't, as Mahler says, put it in your brain and cross a border. The only way to achieve digital scarcity, Satoshi saw, was to manage the information itself. And managing information requires a ledger.
So forget digital gold tokens, basically. You need a digital ledger.
That was the breakthrough realization. And Mahler's uses this great metaphor. Money was invented as a lubricant for the barter system, but we're way overdue for a lube and oil change.
I like that.
It perfectly captures it, right? Money solved the ancient inefficiency of barter, but our traditional money systems, both physical tokens and centralized digital ledgers, had hit their own limits in the internet age. Neither could be truly global, truly trustless, and truly scalable for billions of people online. Satoshi saw this huge unsolved gap, and he dared to imagine something completely new.
Okay, so Satoshi figured out the starting point. The digital world needs a global, decentralized ledger for money, one that somehow prevents double spending without any central boss. But that sounds impossible. How do you create an undeniably trustworthy global record of who owns what on the internet, a place famous for easy copying and, well, a lack of central control?
Exactly. That was the monumental puzzle.
And this is where Satoshi made this conceptual leap that honestly still melts my brain sometimes. He realized he had to solve for time.
Bingo. This section, Mahler stresses, is where things get really, really mind-bending. Bitcoin's unique, profound relationship with time.
Why is time so critical? It seems like a weird thing to focus on for money.
It does at first glance, doesn't it? But Mahler hammers this point home. Nearly half the references in the original Bitcoin white paper are about time. Satoshi even initially called Bitcoin a timestamp server. And in his early code comments, He literally referred to it as a time chain, not a blockchain. He talked about adding blocks to the time chain.
A time chain. Interesting.
Yeah, but why? Why is time so absolutely fundamental to digital money? Because in any ledger, especially one shared globally, the absolute chronological order of transactions is everything. It directly solves the double spend problem we talked about. If you have $10 and try to send it to both Alice and Bob, which transaction is valid?
The one that happened first.
Exactly, the one that happened first. Without a clear, universally agreed upon sequence of events, a digital money system just collapses into chaos. Trust evaporates. It becomes useless.
Okay, that makes sense. Order matters.
Hmm.
But if Bitcoin is totally decentralized, no central bank, no government, who's in charge of its time? Who decides what happened first? And that raises a really fundamental question for you, the listener. If your money relies on a clock, whose clock is it? Who controls that clock?
Precisely. Bitcoin couldn't possibly rely on any external time source. Not NIST atomic clocks, not Google servers, not the clock on your laptop. Why?
Because that would introduce a trusted third party again. A single point of failure.
Exactly. Any reliance on an external clock would instantly create a central point of trust or a potential point of failure or manipulation. It would completely undermine the whole point of decentralization and censorship resistance. So Satoshi's radical, mind-blowing solution, as Mallers puts it so forcefully, was this. Bitcoin had to create its own time.
Create its own time, wow.
Yeah, it had to be sovereign over its own chronology. It couldn't trust anyone else's clock because that clock could be messed with to allow double spends, to censor transactions, whatever. For Bitcoin to be truly independent digital money, it needed its own internal, unforgeable sense of time.
Okay, how do you even do that digitally? Time in the real world feels real. It moves forward.
That's the perfect way to think about it. We need to consider the arrow of time in the physical world versus the digital world. In our physical reality, time has this distinct, irreversible direction, right? The past is fixed. It happened. You remember yesterday, but you can't literally go back and change it.
No do-overs.
And the future. It's unknown, uncertain, yet to be determined. You don't know exactly what happens next Tuesday. This forward direction is fundamentally linked to physics, to thermodynamics, energy, atoms. It prevents us going backwards. Past, fixed. Future, open.
Okay, physical time has a direction.
But the digital world is different. Information numbers, movies, data files doesn't inherently have that arrow of time. If you have the number 10, you instantly know 9 came before and 11 comes after. If you're watching a digital video, you can rewind, fast forward, jump to the end. No inherent irreversibility.
Yeah, you can manipulate digital timelines easily.
Exactly. So the huge challenge Satoshi faced was, how do you replicate the physical world's arrow of time, that unchangeable past and that undetermined future in a purely digital environment? And crucially, do it without a central clock keeper dictating the sequence. He wasn't trying to build a super precise atomic clock for the internet. He needed a way to create a fundamental, unforgeable sequence of events. A history that couldn't be argued with or rewritten.
Okay, this is where we get to the absolute core of it then. The part Mallers calls the most important part. This is proof of work, right? Let's hear that quick definition again. Simulated audio clip. Proof of work is a form of cryptographic proof in which one party proves to others that a certain amount of a specific computational effort has been expended. Verifiers can subsequently confirm this expenditure with minimal effort of their part. Fades out.
Right. So, in simple terms, what is proof of work? Imagine trying to win a lottery, but instead of buying a ticket, you have to guess trillions and trillions of random numbers, like every second, until you stumble upon a very specific, incredibly rare winning number.
Okay, like finding a needle in a cosmic haystack.
Exactly. The work is the massive amount of computational effort, the sheer energy and processing power you expend doing all that guessing. Now here's the genius part. Finding that winning number is unbelievably hard and costly in terms of energy. But verifying that someone did find the correct number, that's almost instantaneous and requires virtually no effort for anyone else.
Hard to do, easy to check.
Precisely. That asymmetry is key. It creates what's called unforgeable costliness. You cannot fake having done that work. You can't pretend you spent the energy if you didn't. This anchors Bitcoin's digital ledger to the real physical world through the expenditure of energy. It creates a trustworthy record without needing a trusted person or company to vouch for it. The proof is in the work itself.
So what are the key properties that make proof of work so revolutionary for this?
Well, there are a few crucial ones. One, it requires no trust. You don't need to trust the miner who found the number. You can check their work yourself instantly. Essential for decentralization. Two, anyone can do it. You don't need permission, a license, nothing. Anyone with the hardware and electricity can participate in securing the network. It's permissionless.
Who can all?
Three, it has unforgeable costliness, like we said. It costs real energy, just like digging gold out of the ground costs real energy. This gives Bitcoin that commodity premium and makes it genuinely hard to produce more. It links digital scarcity to physical reality. And four, most critically for our discussion on time, it allows Bitcoin to establish an undisputable history. The past work is easily verified and effectively impossible to redo or change. The future work is unknown, yet to be done. This is how it creates that digital arrow of time.
So proof of work is Bitcoin's arrow of time.
You got it. Bitcoin blocks are essentially bundles of transactions, plus the proof of work result, which acts as this incredibly secure, unforgeable timestamp. That's why Satoshi called it a distributed timestamp server. That's its core job.
Okay.
So when you see visualizations of the blockchain, think of it like Mahler's describes. The purple section is the past. It's known, confirmed, locked in by all that cumulative proof of work. It cannot be changed. The orange part is the future. The unconfirmed transactions, the next block waiting to be found. It's uncertain, yet to be determined.
Past is fixed, future is open, just like real time.
Exactly. We can't change the past blocks, and we don't know precisely what the future blocks will contain until the work is done. We live in the now of the latest confirmed block, constantly extending that irreversible time chain. That's how Satoshi etched time into the digital realm, not measuring milliseconds, but establishing an undeniable sequence.
Wow, okay, so Satoshi brilliantly built digital time into Bitcoin using proof of work. But you mentioned something else, ensuring everyone agrees on this time globally. There was another piece to that puzzle, something about the speed of light.
Yes, exactly. This is where the actual laws of physics, specifically the speed of light, become a critical constraint for achieving true global distributed consensus. Think of Bitcoin blocks like the ticking of a global decentralized clock. Tick, tick. Each block marks a new moment in Bitcoin's time.
Okay, a 10-minute tick, roughly.
Roughly, yes. Now, imagine if the difficulty of finding that proof of work number didn't adjust. What if it stayed constant? As computers get faster and more people start mining, they'd find blocks faster and faster, right? Maybe every minute, maybe every second. Bitcoin's clock would speed up dramatically.
Which sounds good. Faster transactions.
It sounds good initially, but it would break the system. It would violate the speed of light constraint for global consensus. Information simply takes time to travel across the planet. If blocks were generated, say, every 5 seconds, someone mining in Australia might find a block. But before the nodes in London even receive and validate that block, someone in Brazil might find a different block based on slightly older information.
So different parts of the world would see different versions of the chain.
Precisely. The network would constantly fragment. You'd have disagreements about which block came first, which transactions are valid. Global consensus would be impossible. It would be like trying to have a global orchestra play together when the sound takes too long to cross the stage. Total chaos.
Okay, so how did Satoshi prevent the clock from speeding up too much?
His truly brilliant adaptive solution was the difficulty adjustment. He built a mechanism right into the protocol that constantly monitors how fast blocks are being found. If blocks start coming too fast, say averaging faster than 1 every 10 minutes over a period of about 2 weeks, 2016 blocks, the protocol automatically increases the difficulty of that proof of work puzzle. It makes that winning number much harder to find.
So it deliberately slows things down.
Exactly. It pushes back, requiring more computational work, more energy to find the next block, bringing the average time back towards 10 minutes. And conversely, if blocks are found too slowly, maybe lots of miners turn off their machines, the difficulty automatically decreases, making it easier to find blocks and speeding the network back up towards the target.
It's self-correcting, like a thermostat for block time.
It's exactly like a thermostat. This genius mechanism ensures that despite huge fluctuations in mining power or hardware speed over the years, the average block production stays remarkably consistent right around that 10-minute mark.
And why 10 minutes? Is that number special?
It's not magic, but it's a very clever choice. It's a trade-off. If it were much faster, like seconds, you'd hit that speed of bit problem we discussed. Information couldn't propagate globally fast enough for consensus. If it were much slower, like an hour, the system would feel sluggish, waiting ages for transaction confirmations.
So 10 minutes is kind of the Goldilocks zone.
Exactly. It's long enough to allow information to travel across the entire planet, giving all the nodes time to receive, verify, and agree on the order of things, ensuring really robust global consensus. But it's also short enough to be a reasonably usable system for sending value. It's this perfect rhythm for a truly decentralized global clock, ensuring everyone, everywhere, is synchronized to the same immutable time chain.
Okay, that makes so much sense. The difficulty adjustment keeps the time consistent globally.
And once you really internalize that Satoshi created digital time this way, you understand why Bitcoin's issuance schedule, the release of new coins, is described as being stuck in time. Mahler's uses that brilliant analogy we heard at the start, contrasting it with gold. He says, gold is stuck in the ground. What does that mean?
Like there's more gold physically there, we just have to dig harder or find new deposits if we want more. The supply can increase with effort.
Precisely. If the price of gold goes up, people invest more in mining and the supply increases. But, Mahler says, Bitcoin is stuck in time. All 21 million Bitcoins essentially already exist as potential units defined by the protocol, but you can only dig them out of time by solving the proof-of-work puzzles block by block according to that unchangeable 10-minute rhythm and the programmed halving schedule.
You can't speed it up. You can't just go mine the Bitcoin scheduled for 2040 today.
You absolutely cannot travel to the future to get more Bitcoin. You have to wait for time, Bitcoin's own internal time, to pass. You have to wait for the blocks to be mined sequentially. That is why Wall Street and big institutions find it so compelling. They can't just throw money at it to make more appear faster. They are bound by the relentless, unchangeable march of Bitcoin's own clock. It gives it this unparalleled, absolute, mathematically enforced scarcity that's independent of human desire or effort.
Wow. Okay. Time, anchored by proof of work, enforced by the difficulty adjustment.
Yeah.
That's incredible. But what gives that proof of work its actual teeth, its integrity? Why is it so trustworthy? That brings us to the third pillar, right? Energy. So we've got money as this trustless list. We've got time as Bitcoin's own self-regulating clock. Next up, energy. Why is energy so vital here?
Energy is the absolute crucial link. It's the indispensable ingredient that connects Bitcoin, this purely digital informational construct, to the tangible physical world.
Oh.
As we just established, proof of work requires these immense computations, guessing trillions of numbers a second.
Right. Massive calculation.
And those calculations are not abstract math problems happening in a vacuum. They require real computers, running real processors, consuming real electrical power. There is simply no way around it. Physics dictates that computation requires energy.
No free lunch.
No free lunch whatsoever. And as Mahler's puts it, energy is the fundamental currency of the universe. It's fair in the sense that the laws of physics apply equally to everyone. It's globally accessible. Everyone on Earth has access to some form of energy. And crucially, energy expenditure cannot be faked. You can't cheat thermodynamics. You either spent the joules or you didn't.
It's an undeniable physical cost.
Exactly. And the very fact that proof of work demands this real-world energy expenditure is what gives Bitcoin its unforgeable costliness. It's what gives it that commodity premium, making it similar to gold in that respect. It's inherently hard to make more Bitcoin because it requires spending real, non-printable energy. You can't just decree more Bitcoin into existence. You have to burn joules.
So the energy connects the digital to the physical.
Precisely. This massive, ongoing energy input connects Bitcoin to the physical universe. It gives it real-world weight, real-world value. It effectively means Bitcoin is backed by something utterly tangible, demonstrably expended energy tied to the atoms making up the miners. So when people sometimes say, oh, Bitcoin isn't backed by anything, they are fundamentally missing this profound connection. It's backed by proof of physical work, by the immutable laws of energy and thermodynamics.
That's a powerful way to think about it.
Oh.
And what's also fascinating is how this energy defends Bitcoin's past, right? You mentioned Mahler's joking about wanting to go back.
Yeah, it acts as this unshakable defense of Bitcoin's history. The cumulative energy spent block after block after block for over a decade now protects the entire past history, that purple section of the time chain. Mahler's jokes, man, I wish I could go back 15 years and mine Bitcoin on day one, or undo a bad trade he made.
We all have those moments.
Don't we? But he can't. He physically cannot go back to that purple block and change that history. Why? because all of that past is secured by an almost unimaginable amount of cumulative energy that was spent mining those blocks. To rewrite history, to change even one single transaction from years ago, you wouldn't just have to outmine the current network. You'd have to redo all the work, respend all the energy that went into creating that block and every single block after it.
Which is practically impossible.
It's economically and physically absurd, astronomically expensive. This inherent costliness, this proof of work already done, makes Bitcoin's past effectively immutable. It provides a level of security, finality, and censorship resistance that no centrally controlled ledger could ever hope to match.
Okay. And you mentioned the difference between how Bitcoin uses energy versus, say, the Federal Reserve's ledger.
Yeah, Mahler's draws this really insightful distinction. Think about traditional fiat ledgers, like the US dollar system run by the Fed. They merely reference energy happening out in the real world. When the Fed chair changes interest rates, that action itself requires basically zero energy input into the ledger itself. It's a policy decision, a decree typed into a system. The effects of that decision influence real-world economic activity, which uses energy, but the ledger itself is just pointing to it.
It's disconnected from the energy cost of its own operation in a way.
Exactly. But Bitcoin, through proof of work, does something fundamentally different. It internalizes the energy from the outside world directly into its own list. The actual computational effort, powered by real electricity, is cryptographically baked into the block header forever. It's part of the data. This makes Bitcoin's record intrinsically tied to that real-world effort, not just to some arbitrary human decision or policy. It gives the ledger itself a physical weight, a costliness that purely informational ledgers lack.
Wow, okay. Money is a list, creating its own time, anchored by energy. We've built this up step by step. Now for the final piece, which sounds maybe the most abstract.
Yeah.
Information as the asset itself. So what does this really mean for you, the listener? If Bitcoin isn't a physical coin, not gold in a vault, what is it? Mahler says, powerfully, the information is the asset. How does that work?
This is where Bitcoin really challenges our traditional notions of value, especially for people who think, if I can't touch it, it's not real.
Yeah.
You hear it all the time from no-coiners, right? Where is it? Show it to me. Because they're used to physical things, gold bars, dollar bills, property deeds.
Right, tangible assets.
But with Bitcoin, Mahler uses this great phrase, the map is the territory. What does he mean by that? Usually a physical map of, say, London only represents London. You can point to Trafalgar Square on the map, but you're not actually there. The map is separate from the place.
Sure.
But in Bitcoin, the literal digital information, the data stored in the UTXOs, unspent transaction outputs on the blockchain, secured by your private keys, that data is the money. The map is the territory. The record itself embodies the value. And this means what we can move instantly, frictionlessly, globally over the internet information becomes the value itself.
So because the data is the money.
You can literally teleport value. This is where Mahler's brings back that provocative analogy we started with. Gold is stuck in your butt. Bitcoin is safe in your brain.
Right. Explain that again in this context.
Well, you can't carry a meaningful amount of physical gold through airport security hidden, well, anywhere discreetly. It's a physical object, dense, detectable. It's stuck in the physical world. But Bitcoin. You can memorize your seed phrase, just 12 or 24 simple words. That phrase is the key to your Bitcoin. It is the information that represents the asset. You can walk across any border on Earth with potentially millions of dollars worth of value stored entirely in your memory. No one knows. It exists only as information in your head until you decide to reconstruct the key and access the network.
Wow, that's powerful.
It's incredibly powerful. Because the data is the money, and data can travel at the speed of light through communication channels, you achieve this censorship-resistant teleportation of value. It's truly global, permissionless money embodied as pure information.
Okay, teleporting value via information. That's a big concept.
Yeah.
To make it clear, Mahler's uses another analogy, one he seems quite fond of. Chess.
Yes, chess is a fantastic parallel for understanding Bitcoin as pure information governed by rules. Think about chess. It's a turn-based strategy game, right? And critically, there's no hidden information. Everything is public. You see all your opponent's pieces. They see all yours. All moves happen out in the open on the board.
Total transparency.
Total transparency. And it has incredibly strict, unchangeable rules. A knight always moves in an L shape. Pawn only moves forward, mostly. A bishop stays on its color. These rules are absolute.
Right. You can't just decide your pawn moves sideways.
Exactly. And you don't actually need a physical board and pieces to play chess. The game exists purely as information, as data. A valid chess move, like knight to f3, is just data representing a change in the game state according to the rules. If you try to make an invalid move, like moving your king in to check the rules of the game, instantly reject it. It's impossible within the system. The consensus rules of chess prevent cheating.
Okay, I see the parallel. How does that map to Bitcoin?
Bitcoin operates in precisely the same way. It's fundamentally just data. The entire blockchain is a public record of all past moves, every transaction ever made. Anyone can download it, verify it, replay the entire history.
So hidden information.
No hidden information about the state of the ledger. The information itself, the record of who owns what, represented by those UTXOs, is the asset. And the rules of Bitcoin, the consensus rules enforced by every node on the network, are like the rules of chess. They dictate what constitutes a valid transaction. E.g., you must have the private key, you can't spend coins twice. If you try to broadcast an invalid transaction, the network nodes, like a chess engine, will instantly reject it based on the rules. No central authority needed, just computational enforcement of shared rules on shared data.
The information is the asset, and the code enforces the rules on that information.
You got it. Just like a chess game can be perfectly described and verified by a list of moves like e4, e5, and f3, the entire state of the Bitcoin monetary system is contained within and verifiable from its historical data. Transparency and computational rule enforcement are key.
Okay, this whole structure, money as an information list, time created internally, energy providing unforgeable cost, information being the asset, it's a really complete picture. And it leads Mallers to a pretty strong conclusion about Bitcoin's unique position, especially compared to other cryptocurrencies.
Yeah.
He doesn't mince words here. He makes this bold claim that many other cryptocurrencies, particularly the ones that don't use proof of work, scientifically cannot be money.
Yeah.
That's a really strong statement. How does he justify that?
It is a strong statement, and it definitely ruffles some feathers, but he justifies it by consistently bringing it back to those foundational principles we just spent all this time unpacking. His absolute core argument is this: difficulty-adjusted proof of work is the innovation. That specific mechanism, linking digital information to real-world energy expenditure via a self-correcting time mechanism, that is the breakthrough.
So if you take that away.
If you take that away, he argues, you lose that crucial, unforgeable connection between the digital money and the physical world, the atoms, the energy, the irreversible cost. Without proof of work, your digital token is just information floating freely without that anchor in physical reality. And therefore, he asserts, it cannot truly function as sound, trustless, globally distributed money in the same way Bitcoin does. Might be something else, but not money in that fundamental sense.
What specific alternatives does he mention?
Yeah.
What's the problem with them, according to his framework?
He specifically calls out systems like Solana, which uses something called proof of history, essentially trying to create a super-fast time-stamping system, often relying on a designated leader node to order transactions quickly. And he also critiques Ethereum's move away from proof of work to proof of stake. In proof of stake, network security doesn't come from energy expenditure, but from validators locking up or staking large amounts of the native token as collateral. Your influence is based on how much capital you have locked in.
Okay, so different consensus mechanisms. What's wrong with them, in Mahler's view?
Well, while they often aim for higher transaction speeds or lower energy use, Mahler's argues they achieve this by making fundamental compromises to decentralization and robustness. Compromises that, he believes, are fatal for something aspiring to be global money. He points to practical issues like Solana's history of network outages, referencing things like the 11th network outage in 2 years, as evidence that these systems struggle to maintain consistent global consensus and reliability without the physics-backed anchor of proof of work.
So the outages are a symptom of a deeper problem.
Exactly. The symptom points to the underlying issue, which Mahler's frames as the speed of light violation. He argues these altcoins try to be faster than Bitcoin by setting their internal clocks, their block times, way too fast. Solana aiming for 400 milliseconds, for example.
Which sounds impressive.
It sounds impressive, but he argues it's fundamentally flawed because it ignores the physical constraint of the speed of light. Information simply cannot travel around the entire globe and achieve consensus among truly distributed independent nodes in such a short time frame. If your clock ticks too fast, different parts of the network inevitably end up with different versions of the truth, leading to instability, forks, outages, and ultimately a lack of trust in the ledger because consensus breaks down. You can't cheat physics to get global agreement faster than light allows.
So trying to be faster Bitcoin is actually breaking the model.
That's his core assertion. His conclusion is pretty stark. Someone promising a faster Bitcoin is fundamentally lying to you because, in his view, they are violating a basic physical principle required for genuine global decentralized consensus. He'd say that while these other systems might be interesting technologies, may be useful for certain applications, or even function as securities for investment purposes, they are clearly not money in the same fundamental, trustless, globally distributed way Bitcoin is. They lack that unforgeable costliness from energy, and they lack the robust, self-created, physics-respecting time mechanism, the difficulty-adjusted proof-of-work time chain, that makes Bitcoin's ledger uniquely immutable and trustworthy without needing central coordinators or leaders.
Okay, so just to recap Bitcoin's unique strengths based on this whole framework.
Yeah, let's nail it down. According to Mahler's analysis, derived from Satoshi's design, Bitcoin's issuance is stuck in time, not the ground. Absolute, predictable scarcity.
Got it.
It's built on time, our only truly scarce universal resource. It is fundamentally a time chain, arguably a better term than blockchain, focusing on the sequential, time-stamped nature. Energy defends its past, making history immutable and secure.
Unforgeable costliness.
And it provides censorship-resistant teleportation of value because the information is the asset.
Wow. Okay. That really paints a picture of why Bitcoin is designed the way it is and why its proponents see it as fundamentally different. What a really, really profound deep dive. We've basically seen how Satoshi Nakamoto wasn't just tinkering, he was meticulously engineering a completely new form of money, building it from absolute first principles by rethinking how money, time, energy, and information could work together in a digital world.
It really wasn't just another payment network. It was a fundamental reimagining of money itself, rooting digital scarcity in the laws of physics through proof of work and energy.
So connecting this all together, thinking about the bigger picture, it leaves us with a pretty significant question, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And it's something for you, the listener, to really chew on. In our world, which is becoming more digital by the second, and where, let's be honest, trust in traditional institutions seems to be fraying, what does it actually mean for society? What are the implications when the only truly trustless, provably decentralized digital money we have is something that deliberately, ingeniously links itself to the immutable laws of physics and energy expenditure?
Yeah.
How might that reshape our whole understanding of value, of scarcity? What does it mean for the future of finance? Sure, but also for individual sovereignty, maybe even for how we verify truth itself in an increasingly digital age.
Whew. That's a lot to think about. Heavy stuff.
It is. The implications are vast, and honestly, we're probably just scratching the surface of understanding them.
Definitely a lot to mull over there. We really hope this deep dive gave you some serious aha moments, maybe a new framework for thinking about Bitcoin and the digital world. Thank you so much for joining us on this exploration. If you enjoyed this conversation, if you learned something new, please do follow, like, and maybe share this deep dive with your friends or colleagues who might find it interesting. And hey, you can also follow What Bitcoin Taught Me. That's the handle on Twitter, X, Nuster, Bluesky, Threads, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn for more insights like this. Until next time, keep digging deeper.